The Prophet ﷺ said it 3 times, 3 separate days, 3 separate gatherings. The same words, spoken with the same certainty, to a group of companions who had no reason to doubt a single syllable that left his mouth. A man from the people of paradise is about to come to you. And each time he said it, the same man walked through the door. An ordinary man. Nothing about him announced itself. His beard still damp from wudu, his sandals held in his left hand. He greeted the companions, sat among them, and the gathering continued. No wings, no light, no visible mark of anything exceptional. Just a man, wet beard, sandals in his hand. 3 days in a row, the Prophet ﷺ pointed at this man's destiny with complete certainty. And 3 days in a row, the companions looked at him and saw, as far as they could tell, nothing that explained it. One companion decided he needed to find out. His name was Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anh, and what he did next, the 3 nights he spent watching this man sleep, produced one of the most quietly devastating discoveries in the history of the companions. Because what he found was not what he was looking for. And what he did not find was more important than anything he had ever witnessed in his life. This is that story. Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anhu was not a man who took things at face value. He was the kind of person who wanted to understand how things worked, not just accept that they did. When the Prophet ﷺ identified this man as being among the people of paradise, Abdullah did not simply marvel at the news and move on. He thought, I need to know what this man is doing, because whatever it is, I want to do it too. So when the Prophet ﷺ stood up to leave on the 3rd day, and the man of paradise began walking home, Abdullah followed him. He needed a reason to ask to stay. So he told the man that he had argued with his father and sworn not to return home for 3 days. Could he stay with the man until the oath period passed? The man said yes. Abdullah would later tell his companions that there was no argument with his father, that he had constructed the pretext to gain access. He did not hide this. The scholars who came after him understood that his intention was to pursue genuine religious knowledge, and he was transparent about his method when the 3 days were done. But what matters for this story is what those 3 nights revealed. Abdullah watched. That is all he did. He watched this man the way a student watches a master, looking for the technique that produces the result. He was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, which means his baseline for remarkable worship was already extraordinarily high. He was accustomed to people who fasted continuously, who stood in night prayer until their feet swelled, who gave away everything they owned. He expected to find something like that. The first night, nothing. The man performed his obligatory Isha prayer and went to sleep. He did not rise for tahajjud. He did not spend the hours between midnight and Fajr in the kind of sustained private worship that Abdullah had seen change people. He slept. When he turned over in his bed, he would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a quiet takbir and drift back to sleep. He rose for Fajr. He spoke across those hours, nothing but good, but nothing that looked like the explanation for paradise. Abdullah waited. 2nd night, the same. The man prayed Isha. The man slept. The quiet takbir when turning over. The rising for Fajr. The good speech throughout the day. Simple, modest. nothing that Abdullah's experienced eye could identify as the source of what the Prophet ﷺ had said. The hadith records something important about Abdullah's state of mind as the third night ended. It says he was about to look down on the man's deeds, not because he had become arrogant, but because he had spent 3 days looking for something extraordinary and found only something ordinary. The gap between the Prophet's announcement and the visible evidence was beginning to produce a kind of confusion that leaned toward disappointment. 3 nights. And then Abdullah told the man the truth. There was no argument with my father. I heard the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say 3 times that a man from the people of paradise would come to us. And each time it was you. I stayed with you because I wanted to see what you were doing so that I could follow your example. He paused. But I have not seen you do very much. The man listened. He did not seem surprised or offended. When Abdullah finished speaking, the man said something that Abdullah had not considered as a possibility. It is nothing more than what you have seen. He turned to leave, and then the man called him back. Nothing more than what you have seen, except that I find no malevolence within myself toward any Muslim, and I do not envy anyone for the good that Allah has given them. That was it. No extended qualification, no list of additional hidden practices, no secret worship that Abdullah had somehow missed across 3 nights of careful observation. The man named 2 things, 2 internal states, and he named them not as achievements he was proud of, but simply as what was there when he looked honestly inside himself and reported what he found. I do not hold anything against any Muslim in my heart. I do not envy anyone for what Allah has given them. Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anh, a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had seen and heard extraordinary things across his entire life, stood there and said the only honest thing left to say. This is what brought you to the rank the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam described. And it is something we find very difficult to achieve. Sit with what Abdullah was actually saying there. He was not saying the man's deeds were small. He was saying that this particular quality, this specific interior condition of the heart, was something that a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man of deep worship and sincere faith, looked at and said, "This is harder than what I do." And Abdullah was not a spiritually mediocre person. He was someone who fasted and prayed and remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a consistency that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself once had to gently moderate, telling him not to exhaust himself, to give his body and his family their rights. This was not a man who would say something was difficult without meaning it. He meant it, because he understood in the moment the man spoke what he had actually been looking at across those 3 nights without recognizing it. He had watched a man sleep without grudges. He had observed 3 days of ordinary human life, conversations, meals, movement through the day, conducted without any trace of the interior poison that most people carry so constantly they have stopped noticing it is there. No resentment for what someone else was given. No quiet, corrosive comparison between his portion and another person's portion. No half-conscious inventory of whose blessing was larger, whose recognition more deserved, whose success more visible. None of the low-grade spiritual toxin that most human beings breathe in and out across their entire lives so habitually that they would not know how to identify it if asked. The man had simply cleared it, or perhaps more accurately, he had never allowed it to settle. And the Prophet ﷺ, who saw what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, who understood the weight of interior states in a way that exterior observation cannot access, had looked at this man 3 times and announced his destination with certainty, not because of what he had built, because of what he had refused to let grow inside him. Now consider what this means for how we think about the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are a community that has produced extraordinary worshippers, people who stand in prayer through the night until the bones ache, people who fast with a discipline that others cannot match, people who give from their wealth until the giving costs them something real. These are not small things. The Prophet ﷺ honored all of them. But the man of the wet beard and the sandals in his left hand was not distinguished by any of those things. He was distinguished by the condition of his chest when he lay down at night, empty of malice, empty of envy. The Arabic word the Hadith uses for what was absent in him is gil, a word that means grudge, treachery, resentment, the kind of deep-seated ill will toward others that can live in a person's heart for years without ever finding a moment of outward expression. And hasad, envy, the specific pain of seeing another person's blessing and feeling, somewhere beneath the surface of ordinary social behavior, that their good should somehow be less. Both of these things are so ordinary to the human experience that most people would not list them among the things they need to address. They are not dramatic. They do not announce themselves. They live quietly in the background of consciousness, shaping how we receive news of others' success, how we respond to others' recognition, how we feel in the middle of the night when we take honest stock of where we stand relative to the people around us. The man from the Ansar had somehow done what Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anh admitted he could not do. He had made his chest a place where those things did not live, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had seen it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had seen it. And 3 times, across 3 days, in front of a gathering of companions, the destination of this quiet, ordinary-looking, wet-bearded man had been announced with complete certainty. The action that distinguished him was not visible from the outside. It was not something that could be observed during 3 nights of careful watching. It was interior. It was the condition of what he held, or chose not to hold, in the space behind his public face. This is the lost page this story carries. Not that worship is unimportant, not that prayer and fasting and generosity do not matter. They matter enormously. The Prophet ﷺ commanded all of them and lived them himself. But the story of this man insists on something that is easy to pass over when we take inventory of our spiritual lives. That the interior condition of the heart toward other people, the specific quality of what we carry or refuse to carry in our chest regarding our brothers and sisters in faith, is not a secondary or supplementary concern. It is central enough that a man whose visible worship was modest could be pointed to 3 times with certainty. A man of paradise is coming to you. He came in with a wet beard and sandals in his hand, and what made him who he was could not be seen at all, only felt, only chosen, only maintained in the private hours when no one is watching, and the only thing that remains is what you have let live or refused to let live inside your own chest. Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anh left that house with something he had not brought with him. Not a technique, not a practice, not an additional act of worship to add to his existing ones. A question: what is living in my chest right now? And is it the kind of thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see? Wallahu a'lam. And Allah knows best.